communicate with God every day. I feel like I'm annoying because I'm always, God, help me. Help me to be what you would want me to be, and to let my life reflect that you are in my life.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God, those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God, we see His hand, reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention and drawing us into a deeper relationship. And I thank you for your stories of encounter with angels, divine interventions, near-death experiences, prophetic dreams, big and little God incidents. I'm your host, Trapper Jack. I'm trying to think of all the times people have come up to me and said, Trapper, man, you have the patience of Job. Never. Not once. Not once have I had my patience compared to that of Job. How about you? How would you do on the Job meter? And you know the story of Job. This guy, he had it all. He had it all. He's got the wife, he's got the kids, got the big house, he's got the big screen television, got a heliport, got sheep, got oxen, got a yacht in the Mediterranean. He had it all, right? And he had this wonderful connection with God. Perfect, right? God thought so too. That's my boy. That's Job, right? And then Satan said, oh yeah? What if you took everything away from him? What about that, huh? I bet you wouldn't be like on his favorite list then. Bet you wouldn't get a Christmas card, so to speak. Then, betcha. And God said, well, let's see. And it all went away, like the blink of an eye. He lost everything. Big wind crushes a house, and there go all the kids. They're all dead. Loses the wife, yep, sheep, oxen, everything is destroyed, just like in the blink of an eye. It's all gone. Yeah, the heliport too, yeah. And what was Job's reaction? He grieves, but then he got down on his knees and said, this is where we get the famous, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the Lord. Whoa. Yeah, that'd have been my reaction too. How about you? Yeah. Last week, we were talking to Wanda Sealing, and she's got a lot of that in her. She's lost so much through the years, but also been blessed. She got that extra grace. Remember, age 7?
I look up and I see Mary with 2 angels on each side of her, male angels, big. They were encased in light. My instinct, I got up and I kneeled before her and received Holy Communion.
And it just seemed like that was to give her extra graces for what was to come in her life. And she experienced Mary a couple more times by smelling roses at certain times when Mary was obviously on the scene, you know? So she's had these blessings, but she's had the bad, the good and the bad. They just keep kind of taking turns through her life. And through it all, she has accepted it.
Even though they were bad, they could have been a whole lot worse. So I feel like Jesus stayed with me. God's mercy let me accept my fate as to what happened to me.
Just Job-like.
My house flooded 4 times, and in the 5th time I lost it in Katrina. We lost everything we owned 3 times. I got blinded when I was 2. In the hospital, they cauterized my eye till they destroyed my cornea.
Again, she was just 2 years old when that eye was ruined. So then she begins going to school. And of course, you know, kids being kids.
I was bullied because my eye looked different because I was blind in it.
And that's because the doctors messed you up, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't get mad about that either.
No. I remember my response too, which would be unusual, I think, for a little small person. And I remember telling them, they said, your eye's funny looking. And I said, I know it is. I said, but God made me like that. I am who I am. I didn't make myself. I didn't create myself. I would have looked prettier if I could have. But anyway, so I said, I am what God made me. And that's just how that is.
So even back then, Wanda, the little girl, was nothing but nice. Just nothing but nice. And that's reinforced even now. She was mentioning how when she'll get messages sometimes just before she wakes up, she might have a dream, or she'll wake up into a message, and that message is constantly being reinforced.
Sometimes I get words, and sometimes I get a thought, and it corrects my thought. For example, the other day, someone hurt my feelings really bad. And my first thought, my flesh thought was, well, I'll just get even. But right away, the next thought says, no, you don't get even. Leave it alone and let it go, and everything's going to be okay. And it's not my place to get even or to even get mad. Don't react. Let God handle all of this, and it's all going to work out. And that's what I'm doing.
Does the eye still look different than the other one?
No, I had a cornea transplant when I was 28. Everything is good now, except that I do have a hole in that eye. They put in it when they did that, which makes the glare. Sunlight hurts my eyes a lot. And I had to stay in the hospital 12 days with that. Now, before I went in there, I was always skinny. And these women at work didn't like the fact that I was skinny. They were all on diets, wieners and water diet. And they told me I was going to get fat when I had the surgery because I'm just going to be laying around. But when I came out of my anesthesia, guess what I'm asking him? I said, am I fat yet? And he goes, what? I said, am I fat? And he goes, no. And he leans in my face. He says, please stop saying fat. There is an overweight lady in the bed next to you. And I'm embarrassed. He said, you came in to get a cornea. Nothing to do with your weight. I said, okay.
You're funny. As Wanda said, there's this constant back and forth of what feels good and not so good, right? It's time for something good. For example, when she and her husband were married, they were trying to buy a house. Didn't take that much money with a VA loan. Didn't take that much money, just $300. Problem was, they didn't have $300.
And one Sunday, we get a knock on our door, and some man had told my husband, he said, remember, I went to school with you 10 years ago painting signs? He said, I need somebody to help me. He said, I wanted you. He said, I had a hard time finding you. He said, but I'm glad I did. And my husband said, how much? He said, I'll give you $300 cash. And that's how we bought our house.
I love it. I love how it's exact. I love it when he doesn't give you $250, he doesn't give you $350, he gives you $3. He gives you just what you need.
I never saw that man again. But when we needed it, there it came. My whole life has been like that.
One of the ways God sends messages is through dreams, prophetic dreams. And Wanda certainly had a few.
Well, it was mostly I dreamed about people having babies. And for example, my friend June had been married 16 years and hadn't had a child. And I dreamed one night I saw a little boy with blonde hair and an Oshkosh bagash coveralls with a striped shirt with a tricycle by her house. I said, June, you're going to have a baby and it's a boy. I don't think so. 16 years and God hadn't blessed us with one yet. Well, she got one now.
How soon after did she get pregnant?
Right away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did she find the right clothing to fit in the tricycle? Did all that fit?
Well, I bought the outfit.
You made sure it came true.
Yeah. And I said, he purrs and he's cute. But anyway.
Blonde hair and the whole thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you buy the tricycle too?
No, I didn't get that. I didn't think about that. I made sure he got the outfit.
There was another not so happy dream.
I had a dream one night, and in the dream, it said that I had a spot. And right before I woke up, I felt something grab the shoulder of my pajama and kind of shake it a little bit and said, remember, you have a spot. Well, I get up and, okay, I got a spot, but where? And I had a doctor's appointment that day, and he was from another country. And when I went in, I asked him if he believed in God, and he said, yeah. And I said, well, I had a dream that I had a spot, but I don't know where it is. And he said, I do believe in God, but Blue Cross doesn't. He said, so I can't just be x-raying you up and down looking for your spot.
That very same afternoon, Wanda gets this excruciating headache. It's bad. It's so bad. It drives her back to the hospital to have them check her head.
But now, if you can believe this, well, it's true. They give me a chest x-ray, even though I'm in there for a headache. Well, there was my spot on my lung.
I have a headache. Okay, we'll give you a chest x-ray. Huh? But there's the spot. That's how she found out. Now she's worried. Now she's very worried, and she wants a second opinion.
And for whatever reason, I picked a doctor way across town by a hospital called Mercy Hospital, which was a Catholic hospital. The doctor gives me the same bad news. Yeah, you're going to have to get it out. No.
They can't do a biopsy on that particular spot. They actually have to go in and remove it. Major surgery to go in and remove that part of her lung, okay? So Wanda's scared, naturally. She's very scared. And before the surgery, she goes into the chapel.
So I go in there. I light a candle, actually. I hear, as clear as can be, a voice telling me the story of Jesus in Gethsemane. And I look up for the priest. There's no one in the room, but the story's still talking.
This is his agony in the garden.
Yes, okay. As clear as can be. And saying how Jesus perspired blood, he was so scared.
A couple of things here. We've talked about Wanda's acceptance, much like Job, of the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away, blessed be the Lord, that no matter what comes, okay, may not like some of this, but okay, this acceptance, right? This amazing acceptance, which is trust, which is love for God. And God recognizes that and blesses us for it, right? So here's Wanda in this turmoil. And then at this key moment, they're playing there in the chapel this recording of the passion of Christ, of that agony in the garden, and there she's seeing him facing his agony, being that tomorrow is going to be a tough day. And could this pass? They're in the same spot. They're in the same spot, aren't they? They're in the same spot. Something's coming, and they're not looking forward to it. And is there some way we can get around this? But acceptance, right? Acceptance. And so she is tying her moment to that moment with Christ, and it's strengthening her to get her through this. His acceptance, her acceptance, she's tying it to him to help her through this most difficult time.
But it gave me the grit to go on and have this surgery, and I'd fight it because look what Jesus went through. I'm not going to go through anything like that,
Such perfect timing that the chapel would be playing that recording at just the right time. So she went to ask the chaplain about it.
But he told me, he said, I have never heard of that before. He said, I've been the chaplain here 16 years, and we've never done that. He said, in my opinion, you just had a true miracle from God.
There was no recording. That was just God blessing Wanda.
So, there you go. There's another one. So God does stay in touch with me.
So, and the spot on the lung, what the heck? What was that?
It was probably less than an hour when the surgeon looked at me real close, got in my face because I'm just coming out of anesthesia barely. And all his words were, "Is your God has been good to you, you're going to be okay." So it wasn't what they thought it was. It wasn't cancer. But I was wondering how he would even tell me my God has been good to me. But the night before, I had all kind of little signs, religious signs made up. And in my room, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, et cetera, and so on. And so I guess maybe he saw something like that. But I got through that. And truthfully, after I got home, which they sent me home in about 5 or 6 days, I never even had to take the Tylenol for pain. And it was after that God told me I was to tell all my stories.
So Wanda, who used to keep all these stories of these last 2 episodes pretty much to herself, is now out there telling stories. I think it's awesome. I think you ought to be in church telling these stories. They're fabulous. This is great stuff.
Well, Sunday in Sunday school, now listen to this. the teacher said, I've never done this before, but I felt compelled to do this. And she said, and I'm stopping 5 minutes early because I feel like someone has a story to tell. And so I did get to tell a little bit about my story, but of course I couldn't go into it. I just told them how my house flooded 4 times, and in the 5th time I lost it in Katrina. We lost everything we owned 3 times. I got blinded when I was 2.
What else did you tell them? Just all the bad stuff, or did you give them a good thing?
I don't think I had time, to go into anything. So I pretty much told them the bad things, but I said I'm still happy for all of it. Wouldn't change a thing, because every time something bad, something kind of good happened, something a little bit better came out of it,
And then there was the time she was at her granddaughter's wedding, and she just wandered outside and she sees the priest.
Don't ask me why I did this, and I just started talking to him, and I told him about some of my stuff that had happened. And I don't know how to explain it. I mean, words just kept coming out. And then when I finished, I looked at him and I said, I have no idea why I told you this. I said, I really have never told anybody else. And he looked at me and he said, well, I know why you did. He said, I needed to hear this night. And he said, now, thank you. Now, he didn't tell me why I needed to hear it. But anyway, it seemed to have helped him, whatever it was, why he needed to hear it.
He needed to be lifted. People need to know that God is alive and well today, that He's doing things today, that Mary's doing things today, Jesus is doing things today. It didn't all end 2,000 years ago, as we like to say. It's the same God doing the same things. You are just a godsend to this podcast, this episode, as I begin with miraculous medals, and there you are with your own miraculous medal story. And there is no such thing as a coincidence, is there, Wanda?
No, there's not. And I don't know, I'm so grateful, even though, I haven't had like the most perfect life or anything like that. But
you have such joy in you. We hear your joy. We hear your smile. We hear your contentment. We hear your peace. I mean, I sense that you're at peace. It's like you look around and go, I sense that you look around and go, boy, this hasn't been easy, but you have peace.
And that's 100% correct. I do have the peace that passes all understanding. I do. And I thank God. And it's really only because of God that I have this. Because I could be a better person with some of the things that's happened, but they all ended up turning out for good. So I'm so grateful, truthfully. I've had a very unusual life. My husband and I had a very unusual marriage. We did what we had to do to survive. It was, how would I say this? In other words, like I took $5 an hour jobs, if that's what it took to, as long as it was honest. You know what I'm saying? Nothing like was above us. We did it. and we did it to survive. And at the end, it all turned out good.
Yeah. People are listening and they want what you have. Tell them how to get it.
Well, I communicate with God every day. And I ask him, I feel like I'm annoying because I'm always, God, help me, help me, help me, help me. Help me to be what you would want me to be, and to let my life reflect that you are in my life. And somehow or another, he stayed with me, and I don't know why. Not exactly, you know what I'm saying, and it's just been a wonderful life in a way, in a good way. But yet I wasn't spared the trials. You know what I'm saying?
No, but you had extra graces.
I did.
You
I did. I feel so, and I asked God, why me? Because believe me, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm just ordinary, but he's been good to me. I try to do the right thing every day, even though we all fall short. I at least attempt, and I attempt to do the right thing even when I don't have to. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe somebody's not around, but I know that God's around. Hide from him, or you can't lie like some people lie and they're lying. And so I just try to tell the truth. That's how I have to live my life, by the truth.
Here's a series of events that reminds me a bit of the Job story. About 8 years ago, Wanda fell. She broke her arm. A lot of metal went into that arm. That was then followed by shingles for a good while, which was then followed by her husband being diagnosed with cancer. She took care of him for 3.5 years before he passed. This was then followed by her falling again, this time breaking her leg, and at the worst spot. I mean, right below the knee, right where that bone, the tibia, hits the knee, she broke that.
And I had to get in a wheelchair. And the doctor said it was the worst break you could have, and it was going to probably take at least a year for it to heal, at least. My 2 sons had come down, and they said, Mom, you're going to have to come back with us to Tennessee so we can take care of you. I said, I am going to step out on faith. I said, everybody talks about having faith. And I said, and I'm going to have faith that God will take care of me sitting in this wheelchair. And I couldn't get up and do nothing, really. And so they left. And it didn't even cross my mind. I couldn't really cook for myself. I really couldn't do nothing. And he told me if my big toe even touched the floor, I'd probably have to have surgery. And so people started coming to my house to help me. I never asked anyone. They just showed up. They brought food. They washed my sheets. They washed my clothes and folded them. They fed me. They played games with me. They did fix hummingbird food and put that out for me. My neighbor next door to me, I put a bag on the door, my front door, a grocery bag. He brought my mail every week. My other neighbor man brought my garbage out. People offered to bring me to the doctor. I sat in a wheelchair 10 months by myself, so to speak. Because, most of these people would see me for about 2 hours a day. That left me 14 before I'd go to sleep. And I was never depressed, never nervous. And I wondered sometime what was it going to be like when I do walk, because someone told me, your leg's going to be weak, you're going to fall down, stuff like that. But I stepped out in faith and I started writing down the people's names that was coming to see me. 80 different people volunteered, helped me, and I never had to ask anybody, could you bring me food? Could you bring me to the doctor? Someone always showed up, someone always called.
And I don't know what it is she's been doing for other people that everybody wants to help Wanda in this moment of need, but everybody wants to help Wanda. It's all coming back.
And one lady called and she said, I know you don't know me. She said, I live a couple of blocks from you, but I heard what happened to you. She said, would you mind if I come over and visit you? And if there's anything I can do for you? I said, no, come on over. That'll be great. So she came over with, like a little small loaf of banana bread. She saw dishes. She started washing my dishes. She put clothes in my washing machine for me. And then she said, I have to sit down. And I noticed she's got stockings on both legs. She's got troubles. But she came and helped me. And I didn't know her. And I thought, well, how great is this?
How did she find out about you? Just somebody telling somebody who told somebody?
Yeah, neighbor telling neighbors. And then people just showed up. And they took care of every need I had. Two of them would come once a week and play games with me, play canasta. And one of them taught me a game called Sudoku.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My wife will take you on with Sudoku.
Yeah. And I learned that. And then I started playing Words with Friends over the phone. And I made it. I sat there 10 months by myself with no family to help me. And God took care of everything. And I told my son, I said, I want to step out in faith. And I think God will help me. And he did.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That really is just incredible.
Yeah. I've been lucky in a lot of ways.
Lucky. Lucky is not the word I would use for you, Wanda. Thank you for being such a big part of these last two episodes now, Wanda Sealing. The lucky Wanda Sealing? I don't think so, but the accepting Wanda Sealing. And we've talked before about how you just can't love God more than by having acceptance in your life of everything, whatever happens. Like Job, Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away, and blessed be the Lord, of just having that kind of acceptance. Just knowing that there's a big plan. There's a big plan in action here, and it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And you see the love that's in her, the acceptance that's in her. There's no revenge in her. I keep going back again and again. When you start looking at the different people who have been on this podcast, you just see this growing group of just nice people. You know, Jesus gave us that one new commandment, love one another as I have loved you, and that's what we just heard with Wanda and with so many people on these podcasts. But it's just a big exclamation mark after everything that Wanda has been through, starting with that Holy Communion from the Blessed Mother. But also, the other thing was, it was kind of interesting that happened here in this last week, because last episode we were talking about the miraculous medal, and in fact, on last week's episode, if you didn't hear it, it was kind of cool how she was searching for her miraculous medal that she had lost in Katrina with the hurricane and all, and then she found it somehow in the yard. And then she had it with her, and she was kind of searching for it in her house, and she found it while we were talking. So interesting. My wife, when she went upstairs to the room where we keep, I was going to put my miraculous medal back on, right? And she came back down and she said, "Hey, I found another medal too." And she said, "You may be interested in this one." Okay. Last June, when I was getting the hit for that I should be speaking in churches and whatever venue would have me speak about the miraculous, how God speaks to us, how our job is to hear God's voice in our daily lives through all the different signs he gives us and all. Anyway, last June, 6 churches, kind of out of nowhere, just contacted me saying, "Would you be interested in sharing your story?" This is before I was even reaching out. And the first church to do so was a local church, St. Leo the Great. Great. And I'll be speaking there March 25th, 2019. Here in the Cleveland, Ohio area. Okay. So in this past week, when Beth went up to find my miraculous medal, she comes back down and she says, "Hey, there's another medal up there." She said, and I don't know who gave it to me. I couldn't tell you if it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or before that. But she says, "Look inside this box, and it is a medal of St. Leo the Great." On the box, it says, "St. Leo the Great, patron saint of speakers." And I thought, you know, just another little exclamation mark on it, and another little touch by heaven moment for me. And as we enter the Lenten season now, there's a number of churches I'll be speaking at. If you want to see, we will link you to those events if you live here locally and want to come out and partake in listening. They're all freebies at the local area churches. So just go to this episode 47 of touchedbyheaven.net. Thank you. I do need your story. What is your story? You're a nice person. You got stories. You have encounters. Angels, divine interventions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents, visions, prophetic dreams. What is your story? Contact me at touchedbyheaven.net. I'm Trapper Jack. I'll see you next week on Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God.